Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of Culture of Paint. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at what's caught our eye over the last couple of weeks in the miniatures painting world. Our main topic for this show is going to be variety and the role that can play in sometimes keeping projects on track or perhaps causing rabbit holes for you to go off down. And then we'll close out the show as usual taking a look at some of the work from our hashtag paint cultists. Culture of Paint is aimed at a mature audience and we might discuss adult themes and use explicit language. Now let's talk about paint. Okay, and we are back. The chat is there. They are. Good evening, chat. So I'm guessing that means everyone's on our time zone, where those lazy Australians haven't got up yet. Disgraceful. I'm sure they'll drop in a minute. Hi, everyone. I'm Henry. As usual, I'm joined by these three lovely gents, Rich, Matt and Andy. And we're going to be nattering away to you for the next hour or so about the usual. Episode 11, we're just super casual now. Just,
pros.
Pros. It's just
seasoned veterans.
Maybe even season 2. Maybe we should call it season 2. I've listened to podcasts that have had fewer episodes in their season 1.
22 hours for a season, isn't it?
We'll go to American style, like 25 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, proper. No 5 episode series is bullshit.
I like it. I like it. Oh, and we got a little bit of different artwork for this one as well, so that's fun. We'll talk about that at some point. Peter mentioning in the chat that there should be some interesting confessions in this episode. I have promised we're not going to pick on Rich, and that wasn't the reason for doing this discussion. All right, this is the main discussion tonight. Yeah, we'll get to that when we get to the main topic. But for now, Matt, let's fire up the slides for what's caught our eye the last couple of weeks.
So first up.
It's me, right. So it's been a couple of weeks since the last show. We've been pretty rammed with personal stuff and business stuff, but that just means we've got extra things to look at. My first pick is this sculpt by Alan Carrasco. Alan was certainly one of the first sculptors I became aware of sort of outside of GW stuff. I think he did things for Mercia Miniatures, with a lot of anthropomorphic things like that. That's where I sort of first came across him. And I remember he did these rhinos a while back. And he's just announced that he's going to be doing some more. So effectively version 2 of them. I love anthropomorphic stuff. I just think it's cool. I don't know why. But I'd always thought about doing some sort of Chaos Army or Counts as Ogre Army or something like that, just using all of Alan's weird and wonderful sort of anthropomorphic stuff. And it's pretty cool because he still sculpts traditionally as well.
He's the best, man. Traditional, just so clean. It's insane. Like, flies the flag for traditional is definitely still got a point, Yeah,
man, it's definitely still relevant, isn't it, when you see pieces like this?
Are you going to buy it? That's the question, because he said he needs people to buy it.
Yeah, he's going to do them himself, I think he said on the post. He's going to sell them himself. So, yeah, normally I tend to pick up his sort of stuff at shows like Salute, where, it's nice to sort of see him in the hand. And a lot of, I find a lot of the larger scale miniatures sellers, even if they're selling it themselves, or as more tends to happen, they sort of sell it through a third party vendor, don't they? A lot of those stands have the models on show, which is really nice. It was always something I really liked about going up to Warhammer World in Nottingham, is that they've got every single model they make in the shop is built.
Yeah.
And you can actually see it. Because for one, like, there's certain games that I've been interested in, and you're like the Game of Thrones game. Like, it's a fun series of books. The game's good fun, all the rest of it. The minis are pretty cool. You go and try and figure out what they actually look like, and it's just impossible because it's all like it's just artwork on the boxes, and you'll go on the store and you'll try and find out what it looks like, and it's just, that's it, I'm out then. Like, I can't be bothered, But I'd definitely be keeping an eye on what he does, how he goes about it. I'm guessing he might do something similar to Kirill did. Not Kirill, sorry, Carol.
I think he said he's going to sell them the 1st, 2nd and 3rd of July as a limited run and just see what the
Lucas Pina style.
Yeah, Lucas Pina. Yeah, that's cool.
See what the interest is like. So I'll be picking up one.
I think so. I think when you've earned your reputation, like he has and Lucas has. So I think you can get away with that, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite sculptors, and this one I don't love, but I'm still going to get it because I just want to support him.
Right.
Like, he's definitely one of my favorite sculptors, and so yeah, I'll just pick all these up. They're just great. So.
Very, very cool models. So as usual, I'll pop all of these social media links in the description when the show goes out to the general public. Right, I've been cheeky and had 2 picks this week. And my next one is sort of real old hammer, not even like middle hammer, which is, I guess, my generation more. Proper old hammer. I've been painting a lot of orcs recently. And consequently, that usually means delving back into old books and things like that. I've also been a big fan of Iron Sleep for a long time, and the guys on there have got their own accounts as well. This is one of them, and he's just been producing. I just love this stuff. Like, it's I've got the really old Warhammer books up there behind me, and it's this was one of the reasons that I sort of thought about the main topic for tonight's show. But it was essentially like, could I be happy just painting old, just an old Warhammer army, and just sort of, you make the hobby collecting the old miniatures, but you stay within that almost quite a tight sphere, but stripy trousers, the colours, the shields,
that yellow shield with the eye is amazing. Yeah,
so the shields, obviously a big nod to the artwork from back then that John Blanche did, and the recent Age of Sigmar release, the new Orc faction in that has drawn on a lot of old, not necessarily just old Orc stuff, but sort of Orc stuff throughout, sort of old Hammer and middle Hammer, so 80s, 90s, even some early noughties stuff. And I think possibly they're meant to be the sort of new take on the classic orcs, as it were. And the more old models of them I see, the more little nods I notice when they do it. Like, I was a bit gutted there weren't really trousers sculpts, because I was like, someone's getting stripy trousers at some point. I think that's a real what's the word? Like a visual cue of an era of pieces. Like, it's like the red goblin spear halves, like red weapon halves, was a real mid-90s G-dub thing,
He's got loads of this stuff as well, hasn't he? It's
Yeah.
like, it's all he does is the old hammer, which is awesome. Like, he's got his old hammer elves are amazing as well. Super dark and painted just like this. It's really cool.
Love that banner.
That's it, right? And the banner's like a straight rip of the old artwork. Should probably have put that book on there, not the not this noughties one. But yeah, it's just I found more and more now I'm it's not even nostalgia, because, as I said, it's a bit early for me to be nostalgic. This, I got into it about an edition after these orcs were there. But it's, sorry if you can hear my puppy in the background having a whinge. I've got her on looking after her tonight. But I think it's almost like wanting to go back and see the history of this company that I enjoy painting the stuff of so much.
I like that as well.
And just go, do you know what? I ought to have a go at painting that. It's like reading a really old, like a classic, I guess, a book, right? You're not necessarily reading it because you really, really want to, but it feels like if you're really into something, kind of got to respect those classics and at least study them, I guess, without sounding too dry.
I still want that old Marine Strike Force, and I want it with, I want an Ultramarine heavy bolter guy on his shoulder, and I want bright yellow heavy bolter.
Yeah,
look, I want it. If anyone's got a Strike Force they want to give me, then I'll take it. Definitely.
But it's also nice to see the paintwork on this. It's nods to the old style, but it's not. It's painted how he paints things, and they just sort of marry very well. I think with his models. So I mentioned it in the video I did recently as well. So it was a big inspiration for me at the moment, this guy. So yeah, those are my picks.
Nice.
So next up, this is my one.
Nice.
Oh, I agree. Saw this.
Yeah,
nice.
Such a cool
I've
concept.
not seen this.
So it's the Gaunt's Ghosts book with the Gaunt's Ghosts minis that they brought out recently. Just a super cool concept and really well done. Yeah, and quick, because those minis haven't been out for a while. Like,
I was just going to say that. Like,
Yeah.
That's a hell of a turnaround.
Yeah.
It is as
He's
well,
been
because they weren't.
for ages, that bloke. Like when I first got back into it, he's one of the people I came across because I got into Sons of Horus when I first got back into it, and I just looked at his Sons of Horus. But yeah, he's been around for ages and killing it.
Yeah, but no, just thought it was a really amazing concept that I hadn't seen anyone really do before. But yeah,
it's probably one of the most famous characters there, isn't he, old Gaunt?
Yeah.
So, from novels. I mean, if I've heard of him, then.
No, it is well done. Like, I think if you've read the books, also they've really done a good job on the characters too.
Great
You know,
models.
it's very easy to tell sort of which characters which kind of thing.
I really like Gaunt himself. He's fantastic.
The quality of the quality of the sculpts gives those of us that have hopes and dreams of a future brand new Imperial Guard army. They stoke that fire a little bit. These new models.
How are you, new Canadians?
This is it, though,
Just got
Rich. I'm
something
telling you, they've been stealth releasing Imperial Guard for years, mate. All the Necromunda gangs, got Gaunt's Ghosts, you know, Gene Stealer cults.
Yeah.
What are you on about? There's been tons of Guard stuff. What are you complaining about? But no, I hope we get more and more Black Library tie-ins. You know, we've seen it quite a bit over the last sort of 2 years, haven't we? It's we spoke about it a while ago, didn't we? That one of the great strengths that Games Workshop has as a company is that 30-plus-year-old IP. You know, someone on my Twitter mentioned that they just finished reading the last Wheel of Time book. Sort of felt like they deserved a bit of a medal, you know, for a 14-book series. And I was just like, as I looked over at whatever it was, book 59 of the Horus Heresy, I was just like, you know, like you just can't. There's a lot there they can play around with. And you know, books like Gaunt's Ghost, they're 15 years now, something like that. I think the first Ghost book, it's got to be around then. It was I believe it was his first novel. Dan Abnett's first novel was the first Gaunt's Ghost book.
Now he's doing stuff with Marvel.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. A lovely. That's the kind of thing you just want on your shelf, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd pay cash money for that. Yeah.
So next up.
This is me. So yeah, this was my pick this week because I just really liked it. I've been watching it a while, and the kind of way it's kind of progressed from, it was just one single piece and it was just a ramshackle little hut that had a boat on the roof with like an antenna in it, and I thought, oh, that's a really cool, fun concept. And he's just gone mad with it and he's turned it into like a full Necromunda build, and I just think it's great. Like, as someone who has done like minimal scenery but knows like the effort that goes into making that all link up, and the detail across all of it, it's a hell of an undertaking. Like, I wouldn't fancy painting it because that's going to take a minute. But yeah, I just saw it and I thought it was really fun, and I really wanted. I saw it and I automatically went, oh, I'd love to play a game on that board.
Yeah,
like that'd be so much fun to play a little game of Necro on or something like that. And yeah, it just, the level of detail of it. He's done about 10 pieces now, all to the same sort of quality and level of detail. And I was like, one, like the cost of that, the amount of the houses that he's bought, because it's a mix of the AOS and
Lord of the Rings stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think so. It's Lord of the Rings, and there's loads of ships, but I don't know where I got the ships from. And then there's loads of 40k bits mixed in.
Yeah, I think it's the Deepkin ships. So three game systems worth of
stuff all mixed together. And level of detail, little lamps, and it's just awesome. And I really can't wait for him to see it painted.
It's vision as well in it, man. That's something that always impresses me about scenery builders. Is like, well, I suppose we talked about it, didn't we, the other episode about where your inspiration comes from, and sometimes Marines are great because you don't have to think how to paint them. Yeah, you know, click on the image, there we go, you paint in that color. But that vision to be able to create good scenery And also like unique like this. Like I've never seen anything like this board before. Oh God, imagine if that person was in your gaming group. It'd be so cool.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, it's like just the level of thought to get all of those little walkways all the same level, and the amount of time and effort. And I'm quite snobby when it comes to scenery. Like if I'm playing a game, if I spent all these like months and years painting this army, like I want to play it on a board that looks equally as good. It's like the third player or the third army that you're playing with.
Yeah, you won't do any for our board.
You won't do any either.
Lies. Yeah,
Look, we can air all this dirty laundry in the main section.
Yeah, but yeah, I loved. I think it's great. So yeah, that was my pick. Do some scenery. Yeah.
It also means you can take great photos of your minis too, right? Not just your white background or black background or whatever.
Because I think we all remember that day. Like back in the day, we had like a stack of DVDs and the green mat over the top of it. And I, like, as soon as I did that, I was like, "Oh, this is terrible. I don't want to do it." And then I didn't play a game for about 10 years. So,
but it's definitely games like Necromunda and Mordheim and stuff like that, isn't it? That brings brings it out in people, because all of a sudden that effort is worth it, and it's not just worth it. It's on display. It's usable. Like I found like some of the modern scenery kits that we've spoken about, it's Rich, haven't we? That GW put out. They are awesome. And if I was painting a small piece of it for a diorama, then it's incredible. But actually, if you do it for a board and you painted up all the detail that's on there, I think it's too busy. Your models would get lost. It just, there's that much free detail. Yeah. But like we said with bases in the past, it's nice to have that and then ignore it rather than than not have it in the first place. But this is this is going right in the sort of ideas book, this one.
Oh yeah,
like
especially like you said, for things like Necro, like the scenery is probably even more important. I think you can get away with having incredible scenery and then a Necro warband you painted in like a couple of days.
Right.
Because the Necro, for me, it's more about the actual setting than it is the individual miniatures that are in it. I think for 40k and like Heresy and AOS and stuff, specifically AOS, I think you can get away with it a bit more. Like a big 40k game with a few big buildings, I think is fine. But like something like this where it's so narrative, I think the scenery is such an important part of it. And this is just like absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I'm going to be following that account for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
Check them out. Good choice, mate.
So,
choose mine.
Next up is.
Hey,
yeah,
it's a critter. I'm just really into my painted on fur at the moment, and critters are the best, so it's a win-win, and it's got 4 eyes, which is fantastic. So that's it really.
Is it a small one of a set, or is it a bust? Is it what is it?
It's a companion to like a dystopian future bust. It's a really nice bust actually, but so
you get a bust of the critter as well, do you?
The critter's a whole model with legs and everything.
All right.
It's like a half bust with, it's basically like just missing the feet, so it's a bit of a piss take. Yeah, feetless. But I like this close up more because you can see all the brush strokes, which is obviously something we talk about a lot. And I think the texture on the beak is fabulous, and I just love everything about it, and it makes me hobby happy. So I'm into that style and into the critters. So
he's doing some great work in here at the minute, Mark.
Always.
Yeah, he's busy. Like, he's pumping it out. Like, I think when I first was made aware of him, like you'd have a good few months between new things from him. Whereas this last year, it really feels like there's something new coming pretty rapid.
Yeah, I think it's burnt him out a little bit because he said he's going to rein back how many box arts he's doing. But obviously, we'll get him back for Daegard 2 box arts.
There's been a few people like that lately. I think you have kind of felt the burnout. I've seen a few people post up about how they've been finding it hard and they're reining it back in a bit.
It's probably because everyone's had more time to do it, and then that gets to a point, I think. Yeah. But yeah, as a professional, I imagine. So anyway, I thought it was very cool.
Lovely stuff. Well, I hope you've all enjoyed those those picks. It's always nice when a few weeks go by. They're like it's a good flipping time to be into hobby, and if you're into miniatures painting, like nearly every day, there's something
It's full on, man.
cool, isn't there?
It's full on. Like it's too much sometimes.
Yeah, like if you dip out for a couple of days, like you can completely miss like a stunning piece. If you're not careful. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's really cool. It's really
just
really
like New Model Mondays. Like, can you imagine going back like 5 or 6 years and being like, cool, GW are going to show you a brand new model that no one's ever seen before every single Monday?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
Was that what that orc was this week?
Yeah,
that was mediocre at best.
I got some. Are they still doing this new model every week? Are they?
Yeah, man.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, we got a new orc. I don't know, Shaman or something from the new 40k.
Topless chunky boy.
Yeah,
Warboy. Yeah, very cool looking. That whole whatever the new orc release is.
Snake biters.
Yeah, snake bites with bionic bits. I dig it. That's cool, man. I want what's his name? Wurzag.
Yeah.
From that box. That's an awesome character. But
I like Wurzag a lot.
We'll talk about him when he comes out. Maybe we can get our hands on him and do something with it.
Let's metal one.
Switch. Nice. Nice. Good work. Do you like the that's not Wurzag. Who am I on about? Zogrod is the one I'm on about. The runt
the herder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah.
The original one. Yeah, blue hair.
I can remember that in Games Workshop Wolverhampton. Remember, like one of the first times I ever went into a GW, they had him. He was there. Yeah, amazing. Blue hair, yes. Hair squigs. Come on, get you one of them, Rich. Right, main topic. Variety is the spice of life. So,
is that Rich's t-shirt?
I guess this is just I've been painting an awful lot the last couple of weeks, and sometimes that gives you a lot of thinking time, which can be good and can be bad. And one of the things I started to think of was I don't want to get burnt out after doing this. So I was trying to think, I want to try and keep the momentum going. Don't want to burn out. What am I going to look at doing? You know, how am I going to almost plan my fun, I guess, going forwards? And I just sort of pondering a few different questions in my head, and was just interested to know really how you three guys sort of approach it, and also just see what the chat thinks as well. But we'll just start off with the questions really, and I think the overarching one really is, if you are, you know, you're planning your hobby for X amount of time, if even you plan it, but you're planning it for time, do you think, right, I'm doing this project, when that's done I'm going to do this project, you know, when that's done I'm going to do this project? Do you know, or is it a lot more of a mishmash? And I thought it might be quite interesting this, you know, with Andy, you sort of predominantly working towards display and sort of work painting. Rich and Matt, you know, you coming at it more from pure hobbyists, and myself again probably coming at it more from a work point of view at the moment. So yeah, about you, Andy, how do you find it?
I think the way I've done it's changed a lot. I've kind of been forced to paint one at a time, but I quite like it now, and I find it very stressful having multiple projects on the go, and I think it's horrible when you don't finish something. So I think that having done Patreon for a year now, you basically have to finish a model, because it's weird to like start a tutorial and then not finish it. So yeah, since doing Patreon, I think I've been very good at sticking and finishing every project I started. Picking a project, finish it, next one. And I like it like that. It's really cool. It's just nice to not have any whips on the go, I guess, that are gathering dust and not getting done, and that is definitely less stressful for me.
So what did you find stressful about having? I mean, was it literally a physical thing of your desk gets cluttered with whips, or more of a, oh, I wish I'd finished that, I've got to do this, or, you know? Yeah,
that really, just like, when am I going to do that? I'm bored of it now. I can't be asked to finish it. Therefore, the 20 hours I sunk into it were a waste. I've forgotten how I painted that. Blah, blah. Like, it's just, I just don't like it. I think Armies is different. Like, I put my Lumineth down, I can't remember how I paint them, but I did a video, so I'll watch that.
So good, isn't it? It's like that's 100% the biggest positive doing tutorials. Oh, I can't fucking
How did
remember
I
how
do
I painted that. Hang on, go on YouTube.
See, I think like big project like the Lumineth is fine. Like I've put that away, but when I'm doing like a single model, I really don't like having many or any on the go. But I'm definitely alternating between intensities of projects. So I just finished the Woodsman, which was a bit full on. That was 10 weeks of the same mini, and I was definitely feeling that towards the end. And then now I want to do a mini that only takes me a week, which is the I don't know what she's called, the Gold Sister suit, and I want that done in a week, and then I'll do something big. So yeah, just trying to mix it up and alternate between big projects and little projects, but finishing every one. I think that's the way I'd like to roll.
And that keeps you motivated. That keeps you happy. That keeps you enjoying the hobby.
I think so. Like, yeah, I definitely. If I'm getting bored of something, I would put it down. But I'm much stronger at finishing it if there's not much longer to go. You know.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. So it's not so much that you don't want to do lots of things; it's that you know that if you do lots of things, nothing gets done.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But I think I'm always thinking of what's next, way ahead. So when I come to start it, I am pretty sure. Like I've been thinking about Kragnos since we first saw the pictures, and I'm like, I've built it now, and I'm still thinking about it, and I still want to do it. So I've wanted to do it for a couple months, and I haven't changed my mind. But I am going to do a quick project before I do him because he's going to take so long, and I think he's going to be the first one for years that I break up because I think I'll do him in little bits because I think that'll be horrible to do in one go. So I might do his torso like a bust and then pack that away in bubble wrap and do another bit in a while or something like that. But the Golden Demon Insight has definitely upped my motivation for the hobby. So that's made a difference, I think.
Nice. How about you, Matt? So, because I mean, you tend to be quite select, right, with your pieces.
Yeah, it sort of depends on what I can get time to do. Like I haven't picked up a brush now in probably month, just haven't had any time to do it, and I sort of half started something for Adepticon GD, and it's sitting on my desk, and I'm just like, I want to paint it, but I'm just like, I can't get time to paint it at the moment, which is a bit annoying. But
that's good that you still want to, right? That's a positive.
It's yeah, I'm still keen to get it done, and I've done a few test pieces, like bits and bobs, and I'm like happy with the style of how I want to do it.
All right, so there's one then. So within that, there's variety there, right? If you're saying, okay, this is my project, do you sort of plot test pieces? And I'm definitely coming to Rich on this one, who for a while was army of test models.
Should have kept it. Change it back. Change it.
I probably will actually. It was my favourite one.
Do it tonight.
So I mean, I'm looking at a very, very quick project, which is I want to paint a specific thing, and rather than paint a whole model, I'm just going to paint that thing on the model. Like I've no intentions of doing any of the rest of it. Is that how you're approaching this, Matt, or was this literally more like, oh, I want to paint an orc for comp, I'm going to paint a couple of orcs first? Or
I do loads of tests because I always find myself rushing into it, then I don't like it, then I break out the biostrip, then I rebase it, and then I try it again, and I don't like it, and I strip it off again, and then they just never get painted. I find I go in that cycle a lot, and then it just ends up never getting painted. So I'll try to do some test piece and be like happy with it before I really commit to doing the actual model. To save myself stripping the model 1,000 times.
That's fair. We need to do less stripping. We need to start banning biostrip. As good as it is. We do it. Rich,
favourite varnish.
Yes, I know your answer to this, but I'm sure other people are keen to know. I would suspect you take a slightly different approach, and I think I take a similar one to you. I think so. Do you mind having a desk full of disparate projects?
Nah, not at all. If you could see the view, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 maybe projects, and that's just what I've got to look at. No, I mean, it's weird because it has actually changed quite a bit lately. I mean, before, if you go back a few years, I was into my competition painting, and I was into Golden Demon and that kind of thing. And I would get really frustrated with entries because I suck at painting things for a really long time because I lose motivation and I just get bored. It's just as simple as that. I get bored. But you've got to be aware that if you want to paint something for a Golden Demon, you can't really get bored with it. You've got to be able to commit to that time. And I think I was just kidding myself for a long time because I enjoyed winning the Golden Demons, but I hated the process of actually painting the models to a high standard to enter them. So I jacked that in and didn't want to do that anymore, so I didn't. So I was like, okay, cool. I fancy doing some stuff for armies. But again, I just go wherever the motivation is. So like if I'm into an idea, I might pick a model up and paint it. If that satisfies the urge, I'll then put that down and then that'll be it. I might then go, actually, I really like that. I'll do a little squad. So I'll then do a squad. And then if that's where, all right, cool, I'm done with that now, put that away. And then it's a very rare thing for me that I will actually go, you know what, actually, I'll do this as an army. I really like the process. I like the colors. I like how it looks. And even within that, then it becomes quite difficult for me. So like my Blood Angels army that I literally got to like 1,000 points the other day, I finished off the last like couple bits for a unit. That's been on the go for like over 2 years. To get to that point. And after that, after like the initial buzz, it is difficult for me to focus on stuff to get it finished. But it's just the motivation for what for, because it's the same as if you were to paint a really, really good competition piece for months and months and never entered it. I've got all these like armies that I've started, all these models that I've painted that sit in my office doing fuck all forever. It's just a waste. So for me, it's about getting stuff finished so I can play games with it, because that's what my main focus is now. Not to like compete, but just to play games, have a few beers and have some fun. But again, I do find it hard to, I struggle to stay focused and go, actually, you know what, I won't pick up that new shiny thing, or I'll read a book about a certain chapter or whatever, and I'll go, actually, that's dope, I really want to do that. But for me, I've now found, I think with my lacking in time to paint for myself, which I've got very minimal time to do now, it's actually quite nice as a little break. So like I'll pick up a Necron Overlord and I'll go, actually, I want to try a new technique on this. I'll paint this. I'll finish that individual model and then I'll leave it and go, actually, it looks really cool. And then I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So that resonates with me a lot. Like I think I still don't think I've found a style for painting.
Yeah. Same.
I don't mind that. It would be nice, I guess at some point for someone to go, oh, I think Henry's painted that or whatever. But I think a huge motivating factor for me, and this is one of the variety things, is I just want to try everything paint-wise. I want to see, I think I would rather try it all and then dismiss it than not try it. But also for me, and this is true with a lot of other hobbies I have as well, is I enjoy that initial learning and becoming proficient. There's rarely a desire within the hobby to become exceptional for me.
Yeah.
The joy for me would be, let's say, becoming fluent enough in 3 languages that I could go on holiday somewhere and enjoy myself. I would rather do that than be able to be completely fluent in one language and even work as a translator or something like that, or play all musical instruments to a performance level. Whereas actually, and I've done that in the past, but actually I found it a lot more enjoyable to try and learn as many as possible and be able to bang out a tune.
Well, I'm the opposite.
And I was going to say, yeah, Andy, I didn't want to put words in your mouth, but I get the impression you're very end is the thing you're going for, right? The bit in the middle is something you have to endure and get through and improve upon to be able to get to the end point, right?
I'd rather be the best possible level at one thing than learn a lot. Like if it was an instrument, I'd rather do one and be the best rather than be able to play everything okay. And I'd rather
different.
I'd rather be amazing at one language than know a bit from a lot of languages. So yeah, I'd rather be fluent in one extra.
But to bring it back to painting, you know, it's I get the impression a lot of the time when you're painting a model, it is to try and produce the very best model.
Exactly, but that's the ethos for everything, and that's the same for you, clearly. So yeah, just maybe it's not just a hobby; it's how you are as a person. But like, yeah, I'm like Ash Ketchum. I want to be the very best.
So I've never had that drive to be like this one thing. This is what I want to be the best in the world at it. I'm literally nearly everything I do hobby wise. It's just I'm here for the shits and gigs. Like I'm here to take part and have fun. So it's something that I'm doing. If it stops being fun for me, when it's a hobby-based thing, if it stops being fun for me, I'm not fucking doing it anymore.
All right. So before we go off on that sort of attitude tangent, I guess, towards it, bring it back to the variety side. What role does variety play then in that for both of you? You know, Rich, like, where is the variety literally? You might paint Space Marines for 2 years. Variety doesn't really matter in that sense, right? Or do you get the buzz from, right, this week I'm painting an orc, next week I'm painting a tank, the week after I'm painting some scenery, the week after that I'm going to do an NMM sword, whatever. That one.
Right. Because for me, the joy of the hobby is the buzz that I get whilst I'm doing it. If I'm doing something and that buzz goes away, my want and desire to do the hobby goes away with it. And that's the bit that I want to try and keep, because I don't have any like ulterior motive to painting it to like, I don't want to display it. I don't really want to like I'm not asked about being brilliant at it. It's just the physical enjoyment of doing the act. So I struggle really, really badly with doing a project that I've started. Even if I loved it when I started, at that stage with a project where I'm not enjoying it as much, it's a hell of a struggle for me to.
So that's killing it for you more so necessarily than the new shinies. It's just the point at which you go, this is now feeling like a chore.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's a chore for me, I'd rather do something else. But like I do get the new shiny thing I got a lot better with, because it used to be back in the day, like, oh, that's new, I'll buy it. Whereas now what I try and do is, that's new. If in a month I'm still obsessed with it, I will purchase it. Whereas before it was like brand new, pre-order, give it me right now, and then it sits in the mess that is my office of unpainted things. So I've got better at that, but I think I used to get really like het up on the idea that I wouldn't finish stuff, or that I would butterfly, and everyone gives me shit for it, which I don't mind because it's funny.
Should have been meme of the week. I don't know why I didn't get that meme ready.
Oh yeah.
Next one.
Yeah, but I kind of, in a weird way, I've kind of embraced it now because I enjoy it, and you know what? If it means in 2 or 3 days I paint a random Necron Overlord, and then 4 days after that I've painted a random kill team or whatever, then rock on. Why not? It's just fun, and in the end of the day, it's painting toys, so it should be.
Yeah. So Andy, for you, the variety, because there's more, I'll say pressure. I don't know if I necessarily mean pressure with it, but you know, you're planning a project, and you know, let's say you complete between 15 and 20 projects a year or something like that. You can't really afford to have too many of those not see completion, right?
Agree.
So where does the variety enter it for you? You know, I mean, I'm guessing because you said a minute ago about you're gearing up for a Golden Demon piece, so you want to knock out a fun army piece, you know, a character piece as a sort of palette cleanser, I guess, after following another display piece or a tuition piece. So variety, presumably, just as it is for Rich, is very important just to keep him smiling. Like, presumably for you, maintaining productivity is essential if you're a competition painter, right? If you're not painting, you're irrelevant in that sense, right? And you're not maintaining or improving. So in a way, it's hugely important for you, right? To have that variety, I'm assuming.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I definitely like. I don't do it on purpose, but I do always try and mix things up. I think, like, I haven't done a bust for a while, and I'm sort of got a bit of I fancy a bust soon. I want to do our bust of Wolf Girl. but that'll be in a bit. I'll do something else. But yeah, loads of different types of variety, like non-metallics, true metallics, busts, Games Workshop, not Games Workshop. That's kind of where I get the variety, is the type of thing we're doing. So I did Sigvold, full NMM, blah blah blah, and then this week I'm just airbrushing a thing gold and smashing a few highlights on it. Jobs are good. Took about an hour to do all the gold. It was the best feeling ever. I was like, I finished the gold in like an hour. What is this? Not like an e-pad of some geezer. So yeah, definitely like a variety in terms of the look of stuff, and then also the intensity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Do you find that there's some, again, because you're working with this goal in mind of being, a goal, an award-winning piece, right? Is very often the end goal, right, of a project.
Yeah.
So I've lost my train of thought now with that. But I think I was going to say something along the lines of, are there certain projects therefore that you just have to dismiss because you're like, that just doesn't fit into what I can do, because there's that sort of annual almost plan, because you have the shows typically, you almost want to peak, right? It's like a sport almost in that sense. You want to peak for Monty, you want to peak for GD or whatever. Like, that must suck, I guess, a bit if like a really cool mini comes out, but you go, I love it, but it's not good enough for a competition.
100%. It's kind of why the Lumineth are on hold, and I still love Lumineth. I'm never going to not love High Elves. And I'm really happy with the army. It's probably one of the most happiest I've been with, like, the army scheme and how I've done it. But I can't continue it right now for a few reasons. And one of those is my time is limited, and I'm committed to doing great tutorials for Patreon. Please sign up now. But I can't do Lumineth every week, can I, really? And that's not like a negative thing. But the time I have, I can only paint the one model I'm working on for Patreon. And so that I haven't got extra time to do some, the 30th Spearman for Lumineth. So that's like, I can't carry on with that for that reason, which is fine. One day I'll get it done. I'm quite chill about all that. I haven't got any games in sight, so it doesn't matter. But I'm thinking about, like, my next quick project. I'm thinking about doing a pair of the Flying Foxes from Lumineth. I couldn't decide which one I like more, so I think I'll paint a pair to like a gaming standard really quick. But that'll be a palette cleanser in the future. And it will have hopefully been enough of a break that I can post that on Patreon without people getting bored of Lumineth. So it's all about that sort of thing, really. But given, I do variety because it's fun for me, but I'm also doing variety because it's necessary to do interesting tutorials. So, and there's variety in doing different types of display models, and then different intensities of painting, easy painting, hard painting. And I think another one is, am I trying anything new? So on the Woodsman, I tried loads of new stuff because I did my first backdrop. I tried a new way of doing moss. I experimented with blood in water, and that was all new things. And that's intense because loads of it went wrong. whether this gold suit, I sprayed it gold and it's finished. And there's just nowhere near the brain power needed all the time. And it's just of such a different feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I think that's a very nice sort of segue into the second batch of questions, really. So we've gone more from focusing on the models themselves, and whether you flip between large scale, small scale, army painting, competition painting, whatever. I wanted to talk a little bit about techniques and things like that. So for me, what I was saying earlier about there's more desire to be very good at lots of things than to be exceptional at one. And again, for me, learning new things is the most enjoyable. It's the most enjoyable, challenging part of the hobby. And I think as we're chatting more, it's almost quite becoming clear that, I guess, when you're as nerdy about painting as we are, I want to be challenged. I want to learn new things, but I do also want the brainless colouring in.
Agree.
You know, and I think when it comes to the challenging part, for me, and again, I guess it's attitudes to lots of things, but it's if I am weak at something, if I'm nervous about painting something, then I'm picking a project with loads of that on, because because I know by the end of it, I'll be good. You know, there's enough tutorial, there's enough help out there now. You know, that if you're able to analyze and take feedback and practice, you know, it's very achievable to paint well in any real style that you want, I think. And again, as I said earlier, I haven't really found a style. So when it comes to it, you know, I will want to paint. I don't know. Can't really think of something I haven't tried that I haven't liked. I haven't really. There's nothing I've tried that I haven't liked, if that makes sense. Like, and I think perhaps that's what sometimes holds me back.
You like too much stuff,
you know. Yeah, but I don't mind that. But what it does mean is, I think for me, whereas I'm not working towards trying to complete competition pieces. In my mind now, I'm coming round to the idea of a display piece, but also that a display piece doesn't need to necessarily be a high-level competition piece. A display piece is something that sits on my cabinet. Well, used to, before obviously the great smashing that happened the other week. But that just makes me smile as I walk past it.
Yeah.
So, and that's helped because it's meant that a small self-contained technique perhaps has a end goal, has a purpose to it. I'm not literally just practicing my scales or whatever, you know. Actually, it's with a view to learning to play in that style. And that for me is enjoyable. So there's endless variety in that sense with it. But yeah, it's more down to the technique. So Matt, I think it's fair to say you're heavily motivated by competitions as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also particularly sort of scenes, as it were, whether that's as a diorama or whether that is just as a single model, but inspired by a piece of artwork or whatever like that. How do you find the technique side of it? Are you just going at a piece trying to improve everything each time, just leveling everything up, you know, or are you going into a piece with a specific goal in mind for a technique?
I suppose it depends on the piece. Like a piece I'm working on for Adepticon, I'm not particularly trying to push like a real technique. I'm kind of doing what I know, but trying to make that as best I can.
Nice.
Whereas other pieces I've done are like, okay, I wanted to paint skin, so I tried my best to paint skin as well as I could, and I kind of ignored the rest of the model a bit. But yeah, sort of it's one of those two, depending on what I want the piece to do.
All right, so with that in mind then, and this is for all of you, but Matt, because I'm talking to you in a minute, do you go into a project with a sort of a go-to set of tools, like a go-to color palette, or even more specific, you know, go-to paints for that? Or again, and this is because this is how I feel about things often, is I want to try new things on nearly everything that I do. So whilst I do have certain paints that I love, and perhaps YouTube perhaps exaggerates that slightly, because actually when you've got a job to do and you need to get something done, you use paints, you know, right? That's what they're there for. But actually for personal projects, it's more fun every time to try different ones. Or is it more this idea of working towards this sort of holy grail of the perfect set of competition paints, I guess, or whatever? I guess, you know, is that clear what I'm asking there? Is in my head.
Yeah.
So yeah, Matt, how do you feel about that? Is there as much enjoyment in a variety of paints and tools as there is in projects? Or would you just wish everything worked as you wanted it to? And
I mean, it'd be great if everything sort of worked, if you wanted it to. It'd make life so much easier. But I mean, I do have go-to paints that I use. I always, for some reason, even though I'm colorblind, I always go towards the reds. which doesn't help at all. But there you go. Yeah, it sort of, you have your go-to paints. Everyone does. Like Andy, you have your purples, don't you? You sort of, they're your go-to.
Well,
Did you
yeah,
see
but I
any
was going to
purple
say
on
with
the
that,
last two?
right? Is for Andy, he's got a go-to palette a lot of the time, right? But
Yeah.
you do experiment quite often, don't you? Or certainly the projects I see you working on for our Patreon and stuff. It feels like that is part of an enjoyment factor for you.
Yeah, suck on that, Matt.
It's
As long as it's-
I mean,
as long
admit
as it's
it,
purple.
it's still purple.
I can't even
but-
see purple.
Hey, do you want to see how many purples are on my desk? I can't spin the camera, but there's a lot. I've owned them all.
You are the Purple Power Ranger.
Exactly.
But to be fair, right, that's again, there is variety within that. What can seem like a very similar repetitive thing, right? But actually, there's tons of recipes you have for purples, right?
Yeah, on Patreon.
You know, so there's a lot. There's a lot of variety within it. Then, so this is just all the things that's been going around in my head the last week or two when I've been feverishly trying to paint things, and a lot of it came from that chat we had on the Marine episode. Was a bit like what I said about painting old hammer orcs, but like I was sat there going, do you know what? You know, my time's going to be limited coming up, you know, in a few months, and I was like, could I just be happy painting Space Marines for the foreseeable future? You know, would there be enough variety, you know, within that? And I don't know. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have probably said yes, absolutely. But painting a lot of this stuff for the Age of Sigmar box recently, it's forced me to address not necessarily weaknesses, but certainly it's I can't concentrate, I suppose. It's very hard to describe, to put into words, but I feel a much more confident painter. I don't know if I'm necessarily any better than I was 2 weeks ago, but the intensity of the last couple of weeks has made me a much more confident painter.
Because you've achieved something in a tight deadline.
Possibly, yeah. But also that it's largely on things that I would have painted small amounts of on other models. Partly because I don't necessarily enjoy painting those things. You know, they're almost a means to an end. You know, and some things that I really enjoy painting, I haven't been able to paint at all on any of these models. So now I'm not so sure I would be happy with Marines forever. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. But
I definitely wouldn't.
You wouldn't be happy doing it, no.
No, I love doing different monsters and stuff at the moment, like animals and just one.
I tend to find myself. I always just end up coming back to them. I think I probably would. Yeah, probably.
You definitely would be fine.
I'll probably be fine.
Don't necessarily think of it as just Marines though. Like this is more like, you know, like, would Matt be happy working on, like, could you do a David Soper? Could you do a one model for 2 years or whatever it is in some cases, right?
I don't know. I think it takes a certain type of personality to be able to commit to it. I've got projects that have sat like for a long time, but
that doesn't count. Yeah, because so's Rich. In which case, Rich is, you know.
But I think after a while, I lose interest in it. I lose
like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like I've got some stuff on there that's sat on the shelves for years and it's half done. But I like it where it is. It's not done, but I don't know if I can now commit the willpower to finish it because it's sat for so long.
So this is it. This is why I find it, again, because I think me and Rich are fairly similar with our more approach of, you know, paint all the things and whatever. I do find it really interesting how people like yourself and Andy, you know, like you said then, 2 weeks is the cap kind of thing for interest. It's not realistic to paint a competition piece really in 2 weeks. You know, even if you've got nothing else to do in the day, you can only paint for so many hours a day before, you know, either your hands cramping up or you're just not producing good work. And if you're doing a display piece, a competition piece, it needs to be your best work. So just as I think it's important for, say, me and Rich to have plenty of a variety just to be happy with the hobby, and learning new things. How do you guys get that variety in there or keep it fresh when you've got a piece that has to take longer than you want? You can't just paint it quicker. You know, what's the so Matt, like what keeps you going through that process when you hit day 10 or whatever and you still like the project, but you're like, oh, I'll be over already. I want this, you know, in the cabinet.
I think for me, there's definitely an end goal. I like to always have something at a competition, regardless of what if it could be like the best thing I painted or the worst thing I painted. As long as I've got something there, if I'm a couple of days into a project or a week into a project, and you know I'm getting a bit chory with it, but I know GD's a month away, I'll just push through it because I'd be embarrassed to turn up without anything. That's kind of a thing that would motivate me to do it.
Okay, cool.
That's interesting.
So it's not variety at all. It's just sharp about variety, just discipline, and don't embarrass yourself, right?
It's perception.
As an outsider to that thought process, and having spent a hell of a lot of time painting with Andy, and I always would find it, even to the level of like frustration, how dedicated he could be to be like, this has to be done. It has to be done to this level. I don't give a fuck how long it takes me, but it will be done. And I'm just like, I just cannot. It's one of those things that I admire and find interesting because I cannot get my head to think about it that way, and I just can't do it. No matter how hard I try, I just can't do it. So I find it really interesting.
I mean,
Because I'm the complete opposite to that.
There can be variety in that though. Like you can, like you can start different parts of the same. If you've got like a lot of miniatures in, you can say, okay, I'm bored of painting the reds now. I'm going to paint this bit. I can leave the reds for a little bit and try on that side of things. You can paint.
I wonder if that's a reason why larger models are popular for painting competitions. But so I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there, sorry, Matt.
Right.
But yeah, you like you're saying there, like, you know, you can really enjoy painting this one leather pouch. And then when you don't want to anymore, you've got a bit more of the model, you know, but it's a big canvas, right? It's the same way that me or Rich might move on to a new Space Marine. You know, you can move around the same model, and actually the sword on that model is the same mass as a Marine anyway. It's going to take you the same length of time almost to paint. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, actually. That's quite interesting. What do you think with that, Andy?
Well, I'm hoping that Kragnos brings some nice variety, and I can break that down into some types of part. Like I've got his shield, and I'm hoping.
Oh dear, he's massive.
Oh yeah, I'm hoping that's like a week's worth, and maybe I do that, wrap it in bubble wrap, and put Kragnos away for a month and do something else, and then I'll come back and spend maybe 2 months working on him as a bust.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a project. So I do that in a wanna, but then put it away. And I'm hoping to, you know, do it logically like that, because I know doing it in one go, I'm going to go, oh, it's horrible. So I've got kind of 4 projects, which is like the base, the body, the torso, and then the shield. So maybe those are 4 months worth, but I'll space those out over, I think we got 8 months till GD. So yeah, hoping to spread them out in 8 months basically.
You posted something about the birthday, didn't you, yesterday, Matt? Was it the anniversary or something?
34th, last 27th of June.
Older than us, apart from Henry.
It's getting on.
Yeah. All right.
No, the competition.
Sorry. I got
one thing, Henry, you said about sort of the way me and you kind of go at the process of painting, I found quite interesting, because it literally, as we were talking, it just twigged about you start something new and start like a different technique on it for variety. But genuinely, it seems like I will paint something, I'll get bored of it, I'll start something new, and I will use the same paint, same technique, same things. So like I finished my 1,000 points of Candy Red Blood Angels and started painting a Candy Red Alpha Legion Dreadnought. Like, where's the difference?
And Candy Red Necromunda. I'm bored of these Candy Red Blood Angels. I'm going to do Candy Red Necromunda.
Necro team. I mean, to be fair though, I did do that team in 2 days. So.
But I wonder if that, and this was sort of a question I had, I wasn't going to bother asking it, but I wonder if that comes from where your inspiration for painting comes from. So, you know, I know you and me, Rich, both quite enjoy reading the background books or listening to the audiobooks or whatever. Matt, I know you're obsessed with the artwork, you know, and congratulations on your Mark Gibbons original that you now own. Very, very cool.
Which one?
But I do wonder, Rich, yeah, if part of it that is, even if it's literally just a different marine chapter,
100%.
Your brain is now, oh yeah, I'm thinking about this. Yeah, exactly. You've got that fresh little burst of something new.
Yeah, the thing I love about the hobby is the backstory and the fluff, and that level of detail and all the kind of cool stuff that comes along with it. So literally the reason I did Alphas was because I got bored of my Blood Angels and I was like, I haven't read any of the Heresy books for a while, or I haven't read anything, I haven't read any library for a while. So I read an Alpha Legion book that I'd never read before, and my brain, the ideas just went like fucking mad, and I have not been able to get Alpha Legion out of my head since I read that book, because of all the cool stuff that I found out in the book that I didn't know. And now that I know that, now I want to paint Alpha Legion because of how cool I think they are.
That's it, right? That's it.
And that's the biggest motivator.
Yeah. So I recently bought a couple of cabinets. I've never had cabinets before for miniatures, and I sort of, one thing I'm trying to do is I want to fill them, but I would love to try and fill them where no shelf was the same as another shelf. So, you know, and I'm getting to the stage now where I've got a variety of projects, well, those that have survived, got a variety of projects sort of on there. And so far it's working. You know, it's variety to the point of they are different models. They might be different game systems, different color palettes, you know, all that type of thing. And seeing them together, seeing that variety, I'm finding motivating. You know, it's making me want to go, oh, do you know what isn't on those shelves? You need to paint some 54mm models, you know, or a 75mm model or whatever. You know, that needs to go on there. There needs to be more NMM or something on one of those shelves, you know, and that's exciting. You know, that thought of variety is actually motivating. Sort of never wanting to rest on one style. But I also, whether it's selfish or egotistical or whatever, I would love by the end of that process to see if they still all look like I've painted them, if that makes sense. To see if there are any little strings that run between all of the projects, certain, you know, tells, I guess.
Yeah. One of the cool things about having, like I said, an army of test models is over the years of having all these random models that I've kept hold of most of them. It is nice to see that progression in quality and ability, which is quite cool. And I do sometimes, you know, sometimes I do get annoyed with painting everything clear as red or green or whatever. And I go, you know what, actually, I do want to put a bit of effort into a model. So every now and then I will try and paint something a bit better. So it's nice to have those floating around as well. So when you're bored of painting your 95th glowy green skeleton for your gaming army, you can actually pick a model up and actually put a bit of time and effort into it.
I like it, man. Right, let's close it out with one last question. I'm loving these answers, by the way, boys. I found this is a bit selfish, this one. It's really fun to hear. I think one of the things I know we all sort of were looking forward to about doing this show, or in general, was whilst we have a lot of things in common hobby-wise, I think we are four quite different hobbyists. And I hope that brings sort of, I hope, you know, those of you watching and stuff, I hope that'll end up coming across. There's a bit of interest in there. Okay, so one project, right? One project that it was outside your comfort zone, right? You were like, it's time to do this, whether that was change what you were doing, whether that was level up a technique you were doing, whatever it was. What's one project that still stands out in your mind as a significant step forward in your hobby that was different to what you'd just done? So that variety side of it.
I can go.
Go on.
Yeah, you go.
I'm not a massive fan of non-metallic metal, mostly because I'm not very good at it, specifically around non-metallic gold. And after painting, I did a commission for a Necron army. This is all very recent. I did a commission for Necron army from the new the box, Indomitus box. And I love the models. The quality of them was incredible. And I really fancied painting something non-metallics because I really want to prove to myself that I can do it. Not prove to myself that I can do it, that I can enter it into competition and prove it. Yeah, I won something. But just finish a model that I was actually happy with. So I painted a Necron Overlord that I made from random bits. I literally spent 2 or 3 days doing it. But I realized as I was doing it, it's all I wanted to do. Like even I'd be staying up stupidly late to paint it and get up stupidly early to get a few hours in before work. And I painted it and I enjoyed everything about it and I finished it, and it's not for anything. I'll never enter it. I'll never do an army, but it's sat in one of my boxes, and every now and then I get it out and just look at it and go, you know what, that was shit hot. Really enjoyed doing it.
Nice.
And I actually really am proud of it because it's just a random ass model that I did. But for me, I think it's great. Like my Golden Demon stuff, I don't ever really look at because I'm not that proud of it. But this little random Necron order, get it out sometimes and go, oh yeah, that was good, that, and then put it away again.
Nice. All right. So mine's not proud, like you're saying there. And I can paint significantly better now, I believe. But a few years ago, it was when the Primaris was first released. So whatever that was, 4 years ago, something like that, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Up until that point, I painted a lot of Heresy. That had predominantly been my hobby when I got back in. So it's a lot of airbrush work, a lot of, weathering, essentially. You don't really have to do a lot more than that on Heresy models to make them look good, right? And these Primaris came out, and I was like, right, I want to create a chapter, get one painted up, get it on the internet with a name I've made up, so that if I ever want to come back to that in the future, I've got one that I've created, right? Before GW call them something, and I was like, I've got dibs on this. And I thought, but I'm going to use this as an opportunity. Like, I want to improve at painting. What do I need to get better at? And I thought I need to be more accurate. I need to be neater with my painting. Weathering and battle damage covers a multitude of sins, right? And airbrushing, whilst it's great, it can look a bit lazy. So took a couple of these Marines, painted them white, a little bit of airbrush work, take the airbrush work as far as I could take it. And then it was just about being as accurate and neat as possible with everything that I did on them. As I say, at the end of it, I didn't like them as much as I like my Heresy stuff. And now I know I can paint a lot better. But that was a significant moment for me in my painting where I leveled up. Because whereas in the past I would have gone, oh, that's fine, move on to the next bit. It was no, okay, right. You're going to go in with a slightly darker version and just improve that definition on that part of the model or whatever. And it helped me massively with my painting, to the point now where if I'm ever feeling a bit burnt out, or I'm feeling a bit comfortable, it's always neatness is what I'll go and try and force myself to do. Real clarity, sort of, or the best I can produce, sort of, for it. So that one was my one. What about you, Andy?
I remember not being able to do blending, and I'm trying to do blending and I couldn't do it. Right, I think we've all been there. And then I think when I did that Barbarian about 4 or 5 years ago, and I put loads of time into skin. I actually missed that era of my painting because I would put 4 months into one mini and that was fine, and I've lost that now, which sucks. But I remember kind of it clicking for me, blending, understanding glazing and stuff like that. And I remember putting so much effort into that skin, and I was like, wow, I've actually done some skin that's smooth and it's not too bad. And that was one of my very early larger scales. So it was pushing a lot of things, really, the technical stuff, trying to get it smooth. I wasn't very good at skin, hadn't really done 75, and it just took me ages because I had to sort of analyze every turn and be like, And I look at it now and see like loads of errors, but it was definitely like the best thing I'd done in the moment and stuff. And I was like, do you know when you're quite surprised when you do something like, hey, I've done something smooth. I couldn't do smooth. Yes.
I did a thing.
And it does. I did find like there's a lot of things that are like you gradually get better at, but I do distinctly remember getting smooth blends was a click. Like I learnt how to do it, and then I could always do it if I put the effort in after. And that was mostly really understanding what glazes were and how to actually use them, because you hear the word thrown around, but how do you actually use it to get something smooth? And I remember trying it, doing a glaze, and then going, that's really smooth. And it was like, then I'd unlocked that kind of skill, because I remember just layering and seeing every layer. And I'm like, how do you do this seamless thing? And yeah, eventually when I sort of got that, that was just amazing. So probably that one, I guess. Yeah.
Nice. What about you, Matt?
It probably would be the miniature I painted for Iron Skull. I wanted to do. It was a marine, of course, but I wanted to like push some freehand type stuff, and I didn't think I would ever be able to really paint like a actual painting like skulls and all that stuff onto a flat surface and actually get the perspective right and make it look real. It never really sort of clicked on my head how you do it. So painting the skull onto the shield, I was following Rich Gray's tutorials on that, and I did it a couple of times, probably 10 or 12 times before one time it just went, oh, okay, that's how it works. That's how you do it. And you know, it's not a perfect skull. It apparently looks like a gorilla skull, but it's.
I wonder who told you that.
Yeah,
maybe it was.
But
feedback's a gift, Matt.
Feedback is a gift, and I asked for honest feedback, so there you go. But
I'll learn you.
Yeah.
What did I hear? I heard a good one today. So I was watching. It was only take criticism from someone that you would go to for advice. I only give a shit about criticism from someone who's you know, you would go to for advice. I was like, oh, that's a good point. Especially, yeah, I think that's well worth remembering when you put pictures of Warhammer on the internet.
What were you saying, Matt, before?
But it was just kind of a bit of a revelation that, you know, I could do it if I really wanted to. There wasn't that kind of boundary of like, well, it's never going to look like that, so what's the point? I was happy with where I got it to, and I can just push it further in my own way from now on, which was quite nice. It was quite a bit of like good buzz to get that where I wanted it to be.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thanks, chaps. I think that'll probably do for the main segment. I hope you found that interesting. I hope the chat found it interesting. I hope you find it interesting watching back, guys. Let's close out the show with our usual look at the hashtag paint cultist stuff. So when we started the show, we created a hashtag paint cultist, and it's for anyone who watches the show to use when they finish a piece and they just want to share it. So if you're interested in a hashtag to follow that's just going to give you a huge swathe, you know, a huge variety of miniatures, paint styles, then it's well worth following. You've got thousands of images on there now. And all I've done is look back over the last few weeks since the last show, just gone through and picked out a handful that I thought were particularly fun. So let's see what the first slide is. Speaking of Marines, couldn't not put some in. Yellow Marines, you can't go wrong. And I actually thought this was a nice sort of, I think those models suit Imperial Fists.
They're great.
You know?
Yeah.
Feels
Chunky.
very...
Imperial Fists, they are like, painting yellow is an arsehole. Like, it sucks.
So worth it, though, isn't it?
Oh, anyone who's got the effort to put that in and do an army of yellow, you know, I doff my hat to them.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Massive payoff, though, isn't there? Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those that more and more now I'm leaning towards bright colours for armies, because of that payoff. It's worth, as you say, the ball ache of getting it sort of just right. But yeah,
I love that heavy bolter model. I really want that. It's like
it's like it's Marine dialed up to sort of 11 kind of thing, isn't it? Yeah, very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, very nice. What's up next, Matt? Oh,
Ah.
this one just was cool. Like I say, you
Naruto.
got 10 marine pictures, and then is that the Naruto run thing? Is that?
Believe so. I don't want to get
Okay.
that wrong on the internet, but I think it's Naruto.
Said it now. It's recorded.
Fuck.
Get in their comment section. Kill it.
But I particularly like the sort of. It's not quite cell shaded, I don't think, but it's that style, right?
It's in keeping with the anime, right?
Yeah. And I've just never really seen a model like this before.
It's a
Again,
great pose.
partly it's not my cup of tea normally as a animation style or whatever, but it's just that looks like a fun model to paint.
The pose is really cool.
Yeah.
And the shine on the hair is very cool.
Yeah, the chap was saying I think he did it as like a little speed painting sort of palette cleanser project.
Yes.
And again, I imagine that's the type of one that's just, again, nice to have on your shelf.
And he works for Skynet.
Well, there we are. What's up next, Matt? Oh, I think this is my favourite of the last few weeks. Not
Wow.
my favourite. I think this is my favourite.
That's
I
dope.
love white armour. It's one of my absolute favourite things to paint. And I have to stop myself doing it on certain projects. But this is hands down my favourite interpretation of this model I've seen by a significant way.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I was chatting to him whilst he did this, and I kept saying, I was like, how the are you getting that white that clean?
Right.
Just like he's just spending a bit of time on it. It was great.
Yeah. I just it's just lovely.
Fantastic.
To the point where I had zero interest in that model. Zero. And now I'm like,
I'm a bit annoyed I forgot about this actually and didn't have it for my pick of the week.
This model.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there we are then.
Forgot about it.
You're right.
Because it's dope. I love it. Especially the skin tone on the vampire. It's quite different.
It's very different. Yeah.
And I really like that. Really
Blade,
like it.
man. It's Blade's misses.
It's just really, really well done.
So clean.
Even to the point of the background's good.
Yeah.
Like it fits. Like this, typically you're going to see something like this on a black background, right, or a mottled background or something like that. But I just really like it. Do we? I'll have to ask you off there.
I like the base as well.
But it's just
if you
it's just classy. This model. You know?
If you want to look at neatness, Stilo, give it some of his Marines a little look because Jesus Christ, they are neat.
Yeah. But well, that was one of the reasons I was sat going, oh, maybe I should pick this up to just to practice that on.
It's small enough as well because I was talking to someone about when you practice neatness. If you want to do something super clean, don't do a big model. But this is tiny.
Don't do a dreadnought.
But yeah, so yeah, lovely stuff. What we got next, Matt? This is number 4. Well, obviously this is going in. If you stick pictures of critters or small familiar type things, there's a very good chance I'm going to stick it up on the slide.
I like that base.
I believe this model was in the running for best miniature of 2018 or whatever it was, GW. I think he made it into the last, and I believe the only reason anyone really bought the Marine that went with him.
I think so, yeah.
Was to get their hands on Sassy Nurgling, I believe he was known as. But yeah, it's living his best life there, just having a great time.
I really like that weathering powder on the base.
The base is
it's lovely.
Tell me what weathering powder you've used. I want it.
That's right up my street, that one.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we've got a couple more, haven't we, Matt?
Yeah.
So this is really cool. Partly, most people are using this hashtag as we intended, where it's their finished work that they just want to share and they're really proud of. And the majority of the time, it is models. I will always go on and have a look if something isn't a painted model. I'll always go on and have a look because I know for some people, the hobby is sculpting or is creating, and that's just as valid in spite of the name paint being in the tag. But this one obviously caught my eye because it was 2D artwork, and the person was saying in the blurb about it that they dropped out of miniatures painting for quite a few years, and they were just working on their 2D artwork and digital artwork. And that they were recently coming back to miniatures painting, and they were using this piece of artwork they've done they're going to use as inspiration for painting a miniature.
Wow.
And I just thought it's always really cool. I'm always envious of people that are talented at 2D artwork, be it digital or traditional, whatever. And it's just really nice to see. There's unsurprisingly, there's a lot of them in our hobby. It crosses over a lot. But yeah, just thought it was really, really cool.
Fabulous pick.
So yeah, and I think there's one more. Is there, Matt? Two more. And speaking of the Barbarian,
that's him.
This is from our buddy Ryan, who I think just finished it recently. Like, again, it's been one of those ones I think's been sat there half done for a long, long time.
Since the class we did on it, I reckon.
Yeah, that. So well done, mate. Like that's it's just lovely.
Very good.
Nothing to really, I particularly enjoy the leather on there.
That's
something I like anyway.
Really good.
Just lots of lovely texture. It's a classic sculpt if you're into the sort of larger scale fantasy miniatures.
Just been around a bit now, hasn't it?
It has, man. And I think, and I don't mean this detrimentally, I think it shows. It's of an era, and I feel like models have progressed. Or we are in a different era now of miniatures, but still one of the best examples, I think, of its time.
Oh, he's done a great job on that axe.
Yeah.
Shred's good. NMM's is
lovely texture and everything all over. So yeah, nice one. And the final. Oh, this is just more, again, just a very different style, right? Lots of brush strokes, lots of atmosphere. I'm more and more I'm enjoying seeing people's artistic interpretations of stuff more and more now, and I really, it's exciting, man.
Yeah, he's done some space sharks. I can never say what they're called, the carcadrons or whatever the hell their name is.
Yeah.
He's done some charodons, and his little conversions that he's done on them they're awesome. He's got some really good work.
Yeah. What is
the chapter called? What's the shark chapter called?
Carcharodons. I think that's the old name for like sharks, as in, a great white shark would be a Carcharodon something or other.
Jaws. They're called the Jaws chapter.
Yeah.
Street sharks.
Sharks. Yeah.
Sharky and George.
Great show. But yeah, again, if you want to check out a real variety of miniatures from people that are as geeky as you about painting, because not only are they painting cool stuff, they're listening to four nerds talking about painting. Go and check it out. It's a great tag, and thanks ever so much for everyone who keeps using it. I know there's been a 3 weeks gap between this and the last show. We'll make sure that we'll try and make sure that doesn't happen very often at all. We want to keep rattling this out. We've got so much stuff we want to talk about, and we've got so much stuff we want to share that we've seen in the community. So if you do want to get in touch with us about a topic, if you'd like to come on and discuss something, if you'd like us to do a real deep dive on stuff, there's tons of ways to reach out to us. We're on all the normal social media platforms, and obviously we've got our tuition places as well, Patreon and YouTube and things like that. But please do reach out to us. The community is what makes this. It's what gives us the content. It's what gives us someone to talk to, right? Otherwise, we just have to talk to each other. And it's good days, bad days. So yeah. But I hope you've enjoyed the chat tonight, guys. I really, really did. I'm going to listen to this one back, not just to check that I haven't smashed the mic too many times. I'm particularly interested in how Matt and Andy, your minds work with just that goal driven, I guess, or whatever you'd call it. But maybe we need to have a talk more about psychology of painting or something. That could be good fun. Get someone on to have a nat with that. But thanks ever so much to the chat for joining us on this one. So that's our Patreon chats. We always live stream this to any of those that want to listen, and we always try and do it at the same time. But I think we might need to do an Australian time zone one pretty soon. I'm sure you guys are fine with that, right? Just get up nice and early. It'll be fine. Or we'll just get drunk and do it at like 1 a.m, and it can be a breakfast show.
I bet for that one.
I bet. And thanks ever so much if you're watching this back on YouTube at the weekend when this goes up. If you have enjoyed it, hit the like button, share, comment, all the usual stuff. We will see you in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Andy. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon.
Cheers.